You are listening to the Examine Life with Bram Levinson. So here we are. I am still here. We are still here. Although many of the people who have been part of the yoga and meditation group have departed onto their onward journey, as I keep hearing whenever I'm on a flight. Many people have splintered off, some to the airport, some to the ferry port to continue on wherever they're going, some back home, some onto different islands, some to different cities in Europe, countries in Europe. And as usual, this day is an emotional one for me. I think it's an emotional one for everybody, but this place, this island of Paros, has become home for me. And I was dropping someone off at the airport this morning and just noticing that everywhere I go, I have a memory attached to that place. Even the most innocuous of roads, innocuous of little corners and nooks on the island. Over 6 years, I've really gotten to know this place like I know my home, and it has become home. And all year I ache to be here, and then I come here for longer and longer periods of time every year. And what I do is I make more memories and I imprint myself in different areas of the island. And then what happens is it's even harder to leave. Every year it's harder to leave. It really does feel like I'm having my heart ripped out a little bit. And so typically what I've done in past years is I would get in front of my computer and write something on my blog about what this experience has been like. And today I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get out the microphone and do it this way so you can hear me in a different way than you can when you just read the words that I write. This is sort of my love letter to Paros, the island that has just become part of my heart. And maybe my heart was a part of the whole time, but I only realized when I first came here. This place is magical. It really is magical. And once again, it was magical for the group of people who were here over the past 10 days. It proved to be that place of peace and serenity and space and beauty and quiet that people needed in order to be able to be with themselves in a way that they ordinarily don't have the opportunity to be. And in many cases, people found something about themselves. They found out something about themselves. They had some moments where realizations were made. And I had told them at the beginning that my intention with this trip was to give them something, for them to have something at the end of the trip that they didn't have when they got here. And judging on our conversation last night during the closing circle, that was accomplished. This place is a magical, magical, magical place. And I'm almost reticent to say that. And I'm almost reticent to send this out because what I've been seeing over the past 6 years is the island is getting busier and busier and busier. People are cluing in to what is going on this island and what is here. And on the one hand, obviously it is accessible and should be accessible to everyone. On the other hand, you know, what has happened to Mykonos is potentially going to happen here, where it starts to get overrun and it starts to, you know, all the prices start to get pushed up and then it becomes exclusive to only people who can afford it. And I don't want to see that, not here, not in my home. So I realize that I potentially am part of the problem that I am objecting to, because I have been promoting this place for years, because I found myself here. I found my soul here. My soul lands here. And it is gut-wrenching for me to leave. It's gut-wrenching for me to have driven someone to the airport this morning and on the way back been fighting off tears just because I'm looking at the scenery, and I'm remembering all the memories that I've made all over this island over 6 years, and in some cases in the most innocuous of places, in the most random of little nooks that this island has to offer. But every road I drive, I've driven so many times, literally and in my mind. And so for me to be driving those roads, having dropped someone off, coming back, it's good for me to be distracted with everyone leaving during the day. But it's also gut-wrenching for me knowing that I will be leaving at the end of the day. And it just rips my heart out of my chest. It really, really does. This place has given me the space, for starters, to be able to do what I need to do in my lifetime on a level that I never thought was possible. To be able to travel to the other side of the world, to slowly learn a language that is completely different from the language that is my mother tongue, to become familiarized with an area of the world that is so different from where I'm from, and yet for it to feel home, to feel like home, for me to bring people here and share the energy that is here with them so that they can have these moments that maybe they never thought were possible. And for me to have found, this hotel and Stella, who runs it, who has become a sister and a surrogate mother and a business partner. It's home. This place is home. And it is so beautiful on so many levels that it is really, really, really hard to leave. Have I made that clear? Impossibly hard for me to leave. I suppose what I wanted to do with this episode of the podcast is just convey to you how important it is. And this is something that I've learned through experience because, and I don't know if I've mentioned this in a past episode, I've meant to. I don't know if I actually did it because I don't go back and listen to the episodes that I've recorded. But, I used to be afraid to travel. In the 90s, the thought of travel made me very, very insecure, to not be in my home, in my security. And I went to England to visit my best friend over there in 1996, and it was a leap for me to do it. And I was nervous the whole time. My stomach was off, and I just felt very, very vulnerable. But when I left there, I knew the value of having gone and having been exposed to stuff that I wouldn't have been exposed to if I hadn't taken that leap. And so I set an intention to, delve into exposure therapy, to really immerse myself in travel so that I got over it. And what has ended up happening has been a love affair with the world, but specifically with Greece and specifically with Paros. A love affair that has given me insight into songs like New York by Paloma Faith. I don't know if you know that song, but it's a song about a woman who loses her partner to a location, to a geographical location. I'm someone who falls in love very easily. I fall in love constantly. I fall in love with sceneries, and I fall in love with people, and I fall in love with songs, and I fall in love with meals, and I love so easily. It's almost to a fault. And I have a love affair with this place that is, I would think, in many ways equal to love affairs I've had with people. My love for this place and the way it loves me back is spiritual, and to even try and find words to describe it diminishes it. But for me to be able to listen to the sounds of, the roosters crowing and the dogs barking and the wind howling, even though the wind has died down completely. It's literally like the wind was completely bonkers, batshit crazy for a good chunk of the time that everybody was here, just to really give us something that we needed to work around and with. And then the second everybody left, it just died down. And I mean, the water is, still. The ocean is still. There is no wind anymore. But for me to just, fall in love with the sounds of this place and the smells of wild oregano everywhere and eucalyptus trees, the tastes, the way that tomatoes taste in this country, you will never find a tomato like this outside of Greece, ever. I mean, good luck eating a Greek salad outside of Greece. I'll do it, I'll try, but it's a very pale comparison. It's a very pale version of what we should be eating. The beauty, the actual beauty that my eyes feast on of the mountains and the water and even, the rougher areas of the island. It's a very, very raw place. There's not a lot of things that are developed. And so you just look over a field where there are some, scrawny cows walking around or little miniature horses walking around. And just the beauty of that, the simplicity. There's such a simplicity here that resonates with my soul. And then, of course, the touch of this island on my skin. The way the sun feels. The way the air feels, the way the water feels. You get into the ocean here and it's soft. It's soft and it just envelops you, and it's magical. This place is magical. And knowing that this place exists when I'm not here is painful. Knowing it's waiting for me is encouraging. And knowing that I have to leave it is heart-wrenching. This place is my personal anchor, to give you a term that I use in meditation that I teach. It is the place that when I want to go to my happy place in my mind, I think of. And I ground in all five senses when I do that. I remember the sounds. And I remember the touch of the air and the sun and the water on my skin. I remember the sights and the smells and the tastes, because that brings me back in a way that just, randomly thinking of doesn't do. My love letter to Paros. That's what this is. And I know that I'll have a pretty ugly moment later where there's a little bit of a snot cry, because my heart is heavy today. And listen, I love my home in Montreal, and I love my life in Montreal. But I suppose that the grief that I feel leaving here is, I guess, inversely proportional to the love I feel when I am here. And so, if I feel as intensely as I do about leaving, it just goes to show how much love there is here. I'm telling you all this because if you haven't found your Paros in the world yet, if you have held yourself back from traveling, if you have been intimidated by it, or you've traveled and you really, you weren't into it, I would encourage you to keep traveling. I would encourage you to know that your Ithaca, your Paros, is out there. And I encourage you to find it. Because what has happened for me in my experience is in traveling here, specifically here, it's happened as well in England. England is also a home away from home that, hurts my heart to leave. But not this way. What has happened in me finding Paros is I have found myself. I found aspects of myself in coming here, aspects that I didn't know existed. I found aspects of myself that I didn't know were attainable. I didn't know I was capable of certain things until I got here and spent time here. And ultimately, no matter where I am and no matter what my environment is, Paros is with me. It is part of me. And I hope that I am a part of it. I see myself reflected back to me in this place, and aspects of myself that I didn't know were there. I can see beauty reflected back at me that is a part of me. I never thought there was beauty in me. Spirituality, divinity, peace. When you find your Paros, you will know, because all of a sudden your heart's going to explode in your chest and you're going to think, oh my God, it's not just something that I'm taking in. It's reflecting back to me aspects of myself that have been there all along. And it was necessary for me to find this outside of myself in order to see the reflection back into myself. Travel. And if that makes you nervous, take a leap. I remember there was a woman years ago at the Toronto Yoga Conference who was so afraid to travel but wanted to travel so much that she would spend months and months and months booking trips. And because she was so sort of nerve wrought or nervous about actually taking that trip, a day or two before the trip, she would cancel everything. And she would never go on that trip because it just made her nervous. To be that vulnerable, to go out into the world made her nervous. I urge all of you to move past that fear. Remember that fear is going to motivate you in the opposite direction of where you want to go, so do not let it. You are out there. Aspects of you are out there. That's what travel is about. It's about getting in touch with you. When I was a kid, my cousin went to Italy and my mother told me she's gone to Italy to find herself. And I didn't know what the hell that meant. What does that mean, find yourself? I understood she had a gap year between, I guess, high school and university, so she was going to travel. But, she's gone to find herself. Well, you know what? I get it now. We find ourselves through travel. We find ourselves when we get out of our routines. We find ourselves when we get out of the mundane and out of the habitual. And we find aspects of ourselves that we didn't even know existed because we couldn't have known, because we weren't vulnerable, we weren't open to newness, we weren't as in the present moment as we are when we travel. And trust me, we are. When you're somewhere else that you've never been, where you're obviously not home, where customs are different, where language is different, where the landscape is different, you're more present. And it's in those moments that you can all of a sudden connect. Not only connect to your environment, not only connect to what's new and what's different, but realize that you are actually connecting to yourself. Because it is all an extension of us, and we are an extension of it. There is no separation between us and nature, nature and us. We are a part of nature. We are a part of this world. We are on this world together. And so, hear me when I say, the world is waiting for you. You will find your Paros. You will find your Ithaca. But you got to go and you got to take a leap and take that risk. Whether it's a financial one, whether it's a time one, whether it's being away from your kids, whether it's traveling on your own, whatever. But do it, because you will not regret it. I can only hope and pray that every single one of you finds your Paros and understands what I'm talking about when I say that my heart right now is growing out of my chest. Know that when I come back home, if you are at home, my home in Montreal, know that I'm happy to be back. But know that I'm trying to bring as much of this with me, because I don't want to forget. And I can't wait to be back next year. And I won't spend the whole year waiting and thinking about this. I will be in the present moment and I will be appreciating what I have directly in front of me. Trust me. But know that all of this is possible. The only person who stands in our way of achieving it, of experiencing it, of knowing it, is us. We stand in our own way. So get out. Get out of your own way. I'll give you the piece of advice that Joan Ravinsky, my teacher, gave me 20 years ago. Get out of your own way. Get out there. Find your Paros. I'll see you later. This has been the Examine Life with Bram Levinson.